Okay, so you know that feeling, right, when you've got like a million things you started and haven't finished?
Oh, yeah.
That's basically what we're diving into today.
Uh-huh.
It's a book called Finish Everything You Start
Okay.
by Yager. And it's not about like becoming some sort of productivity machine.
Right.
It's more about being intentional and figuring out like what actually matters.
Absolutely.
What projects are really worth our time and energy, you know?
Yeah, like, does this project actually, like, resonate with you? Is it
Yeah.
something that you feel like you need to do?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it something that someone told you to do?
Or like, you know those things you start with like so much enthusiasm?
Yes.
And then like 3 weeks later,
Hold.
they're just like abandoned.
That's me with knitting.
Oh
I
yeah.
have so many unfinished knitting projects.
I've got like a bread making kit
Yeah, oh,
that is just like sitting there
Yep.
judging me.
So the book actually starts with, like, a really interesting question. It asks, like, why are we even so obsessed with finishing things in the first place?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
Because, like, there's this pressure, right? To, like, check things off the list to be productive.
Right.
To, like, not be a quitter.
Yeah, yeah.
But the book is like, hold on a second.
Okay.
Let's, like, examine that belief.
Right.
Like, why do we feel like we have to finish everything we start?
Especially when like sometimes quitting is the better option.
Yes,
Well,
totally.
Right.
Like, if a project is draining your energy,
Yeah.
if it's not aligned with your goals,
Mm.
if it's, like, making you miserable,
Well-
then, like, why are you forcing yourself to finish it, you know?
Yeah.
So the book really encourages you to, like, take a step back
Okay.
and, like, really think about your why. Like, what are your core values?
Yeah.
What are your goals? And then, like, look at your project list and be like, okay,
Okay.
do these projects actually align with, like,
Oh.
who I am and where I want to go?
That's so important, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like we can waste so much time
Totally.
on things that don't even matter to us in the long run.
Absolutely.
So once you've kind of figured out like what you actually want to focus on,
yeah.
then comes the whole like prioritization challenge.
Yes.
Right.
Because even when you know what to work on,
Yeah.
you still have to figure out, like, what to do first.
Right.
And what can wait and what you can, like, just get rid of altogether.
Right.
So the book talks about these different frameworks
There.
that can help you with this.
Okay.
One of them is called the Eisenhower Matrix.
Okay. I've heard of this one.
Have you?
Yeah. Yeah. Like vaguely.
It's super helpful.
Okay.
Basically, like, you draw a big plus sign on a piece of paper,
Okay.
and it divides it into 4 quadrants.
Okay.
Right? So the top left quadrant
Yeah.
is for things that are both urgent and important.
Okay. So like deadlines.
Yes, deadlines, crises,
Right.
things that you absolutely have to deal with right now.
Got it.
Then you have the bottom left quadrant, which is for things that are urgent,
Okay.
but not necessarily important.
Oh, interesting.
So these are things that, like, might feel urgent
Right.
in the moment, but
Yeah.
they're not actually moving you towards your goals.
So that's where like all those notifications
Yes.
live. Right.
Exactly. Emails, phone calls,
Right.
all that stuff that can, like, distract you
Mm-hmm.
from the really important work.
Yeah.
Then you have the top right quadrant,
Okay.
which is for things that are important,
Mm-hmm.
but not urgent.
Okay. So like long-term goals.
Yes, exactly. Personal development,
Yeah.
planning,
Well,
strategizing.
that's where like organizing my finances would go.
Yes.
Finally.
Exactly. And the book argues that, like, this is the quadrant that we should be spending
Okay.
the most time in,
Interesting.
because these are the things that are going to, like, really make a difference in our lives.
Right. But they're so easy to put off.
Yes, because they're not urgent.
Right.
They don't have that, like, immediate deadline pressure. But they're the things that are going to, like, really move the needle
Mm-hmm.
in the long run.
Okay. So then what's the last quadrant?
The last quadrant is the bottom right.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's for things that are neither urgent nor important.
Oh, those are the fun ones.
Yes, this is where you find, like,
I know.
procrastination,
Yes.
time-wasting activities.
Mindless scrolling.
Exactly, like social media spirals,
Uh-huh.
watching too much TV.
Yeah, yeah. All that good stuff.
So the goal is to, like, minimize the amount of time
Right.
that you spend in that quadrant.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like we've identified what we actually want to do.
Mhm.
We've figured out how to prioritize it.
Yes.
But then there's this like big scary monster
Oh.
that we have to face.
What's that?
Procrastination.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The ultimate productivity killer.
Yes. And it's like it can strike at any moment,
Absolutely.
even when we're working on projects that we're actually excited about.
Totally. Like, suddenly that dusty bookshelf seems very important to clean. Or you're like, I really need to reorganize my entire closet.
Yep. Or like do the dishes when
Yeah.
you have a deadline looming.
Exactly.
But, procrastination, it's not just like lack of willpower.
Right. It's often like a symptom of something deeper.
Oh, okay.
So the book really dives into like understanding the root causes of procrastination, and it offers a lot of different strategies for dealing with it.
Okay.
One thing it talks about is breaking down large tasks
Okay.
into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, because sometimes we procrastinate because a task just feels so overwhelming.
Right.
Like we don't even know where to start.
Uh-huh.
So the book is like, okay, break it down into like ridiculously small steps.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Like super tiny.
Tiny, tiny steps.
Okay, so instead of write a chapter,
Yes.
it's like write one paragraph
Yeah.
describing the villain's evil laugh.
That's perfect.
Right.
And then once you finish that paragraph,
Yeah.
you celebrate. You acknowledge that win.
Okay.
No matter how small it is.
I like that.
Because it reinforces the habit loop.
Okay, so that kind of brings us to the next point, which is the power of habit formation.
Yes.
Right.
This is so key.
Like, it's one thing to, like, know what to do and how to prioritize it,
Yeah.
but it's another thing to actually, like, do it consistently.
Absolutely. Consistency is key.
Right.
And the book has a lot of great strategies for building those habits.
Okay.
One that I really like is time blocking.
Oh, yeah. I've been trying that.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, it's like kind of a game changer.
It is.
Like, it's so much better than just kind of like winging it.
Totally. Because with time blocking,
Mhm.
you're not just like squeezing things in whenever you can.
Right.
You're intentionally allocating your time
Yes.
to specific tasks.
Like, it's almost like you're giving yourself permission
Yes.
to focus on that one thing.
Exactly.
And not feel guilty about, like, not doing all the other things.
Right, because you've already allocated time for those other things
Exactly.
later on.
Yeah.
So you can fully be present
Mm-hmm.
in that moment with that task.
It's so much less stressful.
Way less stressful.
Right.
Yeah.
But, even with all the best planning and habits,
Uh,
things don't always go according to plan.
that's true.
Right.
Life happens.
Yeah. And we hit setbacks.
We all do.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
inevitable.
Yeah.
And like I think that's one of the reasons why people get discouraged
Yeah.
and give up on projects.
Yeah, because they feel like they failed.
Exactly. But the book has like a really empowering reframing of failure.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it encourages you to see setbacks as learning opportunities.
Yeah, okay.
Like instead of thinking, oh, I messed up, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what can I learn from this?
Right.
How can I adjust my approach?
Yeah.
How can I use this experience to do better next time?
It's like that whole, like, growth mindset thing.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Like, it's not about being perfect. It's about, like, constantly learning and improving.
Absolutely.
It reminds me of that time I tried to, like, DIY a headboard.
Oh, no.
Ooh, it was a disaster.
What happened?
I mean, it ended up being like a pile of splintered wood,
Oh.
and I had a bruised ego.
Ouch.
But you know what I learned to measure? Twice.
Okay.
Cut once.
There you go. Right? So it was a valuable lesson.
Yeah, it was a very expensive lesson.
Well, but you learned from it.
I did.
And that's what matters.
Exactly.
And like sometimes we don't even have to learn these lessons the hard way,
Oh, great.
right? We can learn from other people's experiences.
Oh, that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where like having a support system
Mhm.
can be so helpful.
So the book also talks about, like, the importance of accountability.
Yes, right.
Accountability is huge.
Like having someone to kind of like check in with
Mhm.
and like share your progress with.
Yeah, it can make a big difference.
Right. Because it's like when you tell someone your goals,
Uh-huh.
you're more likely to actually follow through with them.
Right, because then you're, like, accountable to someone other than yourself.
Exactly. And it's not just about like the fear of disappointing someone.
Uh-huh.
It's also about like having that social support,
Mhm.
having someone to celebrate your wins with
Yeah.
and to encourage you when you're struggling.
Right, like you're kind of like in it together.
Yes.
Right.
So it's like a team effort. It's
Yeah.
not just you against the world
Exactly, yeah.
trying to like achieve your goals in isolation.
So to wrap things up, like this book, Finish Everything You Start.
Mm-hmm.
It's packed with like practical strategies
Yes,
and mindset shifts
absolutely.
that can help us be more intentional with our time and our energy.
And to actually like finish the things that matter to us.
Right. It's not about finishing every single thing we start.
Right.
It's about like choosing our battles wisely
Yeah.
and like making sure that the projects we're working on are aligned with
Mhm.
our values and our goals.
Absolutely.
So I think for our listeners,
Yeah.
like a good takeaway would be to just like think about
Mhm.
one project that you've been putting off
Okay.
that really like speaks to you.
Yeah.
Something that aligns with those deep down values we talked about.
Right.
And like, what would finishing that project mean for you?
That's a good question.
Right.
Yeah. How would it make you feel?
Yeah. And how might that accomplishment like ripple out into other areas of your life?
Ooh.
Right.
I like that.
Because it might be more impactful than you think.
Yeah, I think it's easy to underestimate the power of finishing something.
Right.
Even if it's a small thing.
Yeah.
Because it gives you that sense of accomplishment. It builds momentum.
Yeah.
It shows you that you can do it.
Right.
And then that can like inspire you to take on bigger and bigger challenges.
Exactly. Yeah.
So don't be afraid to like start small.
Right.
Pick one project. Break it down into tiny steps.
Yep.
And just get started.
Awesome advice.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me today.
It was my pleasure.
It was great chatting with you.
Likewise.
And to all our listeners out there, keep on finishing those projects.
Or not.
Maybe quit some of them.
Choose wisely.
Choose wisely. That's the key.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.